And I'm going to, we're going to this thing is on for
So we begin with a song this morning. This one is in the teal hymnal, As If You Care, because it will be on the screens, we hope. This is There's a River Flowing in My Soul. I want to remind you that if you're going to sing, we strongly encourage you to wear a mask. You may want to wear a mask your whole time in the building. I don't know. It's up to you. This week, the board may decide something different for next. So if you want to wear a mask, do. If you don't, nobody should tell you what to do. So there's a river flowing in my soul. If you're going along with nobody telling you what to do, you can stay seated, you can stand up, you can dance. Do whatever, but let's sing this song together. There's a river flowing in my soul. I think we're done. Are we done? We don't have anything else for stuff to flow through. Please be seated. We should talk.
Good morning. We're glad you're with us today. I'm Claire Harrison. I'm a member of the Board of Trustees here at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Venice, which we fondly refer to as UCOV. Here at UCOV, we strive to be a beacon of liberal religion for Florida's Sun Coast and refuge for all who seek a welcoming community. No matter your color, creed, ability, or class, no matter who you love, your gender expression, political affiliation, or religious belief. Here, hopefully, we celebrate our differences as we learn from one another. If you're interested in learning more about our congregation and its opportunities for learning, growth, and connection, we ask that you please look over our calendar and announcements on Facebook and at our webpage at uucov.org. If you're watching this on YouTube, please remember to like us by hitting the thumbs up icon. Leave us a note in the comment section and click the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. And if you're at our website, please consider clicking also the donate button and giving as generously as you can. On the second Sunday of every month, we take up a collection that in its entirety goes to a local service, social service, or social justice organization. This morning, Barbara Buring, chair of our social justice team, will tell us a bit about this month's recipient, the Good Samaritan Pharmacy and Health Services. Barbara?
Good morning. The Good Samaritan Pharmacy and Health Services provides medical services to uninsured, needy families in our community. Over 30% of Sarasota families have income below 200% of the poverty level and can be devastated by one medical crisis. This organization provides free access to prescription and over-the-counter medications, as well as access to physician services, including diagnostic testing. They continued even during the pandemic. They are a 501c3. They are located in Nokomis and are staffed almost entirely by volunteers. Our donations would be used to purchase medications. Please make any checks payable to UCOF with Good Samaritan in the memo line. Thank you for your generosity.
We've got a pretty full house this morning, and I'm curious on if we have any new visitors or people who have been just here a few times and haven't wanted to introduce themselves until today. If you're new to our congregation and would like to stand up and introduce yourself and say where you're from, that would be great.
Hi, my name is Heike. I'm from Northport.
I'm Bob Edwards. I've been here a number of times over the last several years, and I'm from Glenview, Illinois.
Yes, please.
My name's Allison Moore. I'm a sister to Marcia Smith, who's just started coming. And I'm from New York City and Ontario, Canada. And I'm good friends with Jessica Rodella up in Waterloo, Ontario, who's the EU pastor there. And I attend her church when I'm there. And it's great to be here.
Great to have you.
I'm George from Connecticut, here with Charlene.
Good morning.
My name is Candy Kramer. I'm here visiting from Traverse City, Michigan. We call and I met in Lansing at Garden Club, and she spent the summer up in Traverse City now. And I've been down here for a while. And I'm a member of the Union Church, Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Grand Traverse.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Jinsey. I'm first timer, and I came from Baltimore, Maryland.
Welcome. Yes.
I'm Marian Herner. I'm very pleased to have as a guest my friend Alex Norton, who I have not seen for 15 years. All those years to come. It's such a treat to have him.
Welcome.
She's from Harrisonburg, Virginia, which is the Shenandoah Valley.
Up, way out back.
I'm Diane Christmas, and we moved here recently from Asheville, North Carolina. We're now here at
And are there any folks that are returning to us in some time or who have been further up north and decided to join us in the nicer weather? We're hoping that you'll find something in this service that speaks to you, that lifts you in some way or challenges you in ways that lead to spiritual reflection and personal growth. We're glad you decided to join us this morning, and we welcome you to church today. Our service this morning is being conducted by our settled minister, Reverend Khleber Van Zandt.
If there are ushers back there that I can't see, there are chairs stacked up here. If we need more, please, there are other chairs over there. So we will definitely have more chairs out for next week. It's a great problem to have. But I'm sorry if it feels a little pressed to you. I wanted to say something about the prelude that will be done by the choir. This is called "'Twas in the Moon of Wintertime." It's arranged by our choir director, Marcy Leonard. And she told me that this is also known as the Huron Carol, because it's based on a French tune that has text from the Jesuit priest Jean de Brebeuf. I'm not French. This was originally written in the Huron tribal native language and tells the Christmas story using native references. So our prelude begins our service. Call to worship this morning comes from the Unitarian Universalist Humanist minister, colleague and friend of mine, the Reverend Dr. Kendall Gibbons. She said, "We are here because we are people of faith. Within each of us lives the conviction of a saving faith that could restore our broken planet and illuminate the lives of our sisters and brothers and siblings. Ancient wisdom teaches that we who would save the world must first save ourselves. We who would restore the planet must learn to restore the broken structures of the institutions closest to hand, to illuminate the lives of our companions and friends. To this end, let us center ourselves, acknowledging the trouble of mind and vexation of spirit that accompanies us even here. Let us open ourselves to that creative mystery which is at work in our striving, and whose servants we are, whose servants we seek to be." Let's worship together this morning. Our first hymn is in the gray hymnal at number 187. It sounds along the ages, and I'd invite you to rise up as you're willing and able. Standing, we have a responsive reading. It's in the gray hymnal at number 441. It comes from Jacob Trapp. To worship is to stand in awe under a heaven of stars, before a flower, a leaf in sunlight, or a grain of sand. To worship is to be silent, receptive, before a tree is stirred with the wind, or the passing shadow of a cloud. To worship is to work with dedication and skill. It is to pause from work and listen to a strain of music. To worship is to sing, the singing beauty of the earth. It is to listen through a storm, to the still small voice within. Worship is a loneliness seeking communion. It is a thirsty land crying out for rain. Worship is kindred fire within our hearts. It moves through deeds of kindness and through acts of love. Worship is the mystery within us, reaching out to the mystery beyond. It is an inarticulate silence yearning to speak. It is the window of a moment, open to the sky of the eternal. Seated. At this point, our children do still have their own religious education class by Zoom each Sunday at 10 a.m. We are hoping they are back on campus sooner rather than later. If you'd like to attend that meeting or help your child to attend, login information can be found on our website at uucov.org or on our Facebook page. This morning, though, we will invite Eileen Leapley up to talk about the gratitude tree that you see on the chancel.
Good morning. I'm Eileen Leapley of the Caring Team. Last week, the Caring Team introduced our UCOF Gratitude Tree. Each Sunday in December, you're all invited to place an ornament on this beautiful tree, and if you wish, you can tell us what it represents to you. If you'd like to keep it more personal, you can hang your ornament before or after the service. If anyone has an ornament to hang on our gratitude tree, please come up now.
Hi, I'm Fran Venice. I brought a Airstream trailer because when my children were young, many years ago, we used to fill up this little trailer and go see the world. We had lots of fun, lots of other times, but the five of us really got to know each other, and I'm really
Hi, I'm Linda Engel. I moved here from a third world country, so every time this year, I'm so thankful for central heating and air.
I'm Lee Carmody, and what I've hung is a representation, a little boy singing in my gratitude for all the music that has blessed my life.
I'm sneaking in too. I have gratitude for the people that have gone before me, friendships that are no longer available except in my memory, and this is for Lori Barebolt, a top hat. And for those people who are in the LGBTQ plus community, how much they've added to our congregation and to all of our lives. So love is love. Thank you.
I'm gratitude for the campus team, which strives to keep this place here a welcoming and attractive place. And I'm most appreciative of the many friendships that it has afforded over the years doing so.
Hi, I'm Liz Kramer, and this is my husband Phil, who actually followed me up here. I didn't know he was coming. I brought a snowflake, not because I miss the snow of Connecticut, but because a snowflake, if you look under a microscope, is so unique. Each one is so beautiful. So it reminded me of beauty and nature, and I'm so thankful for the beauty of nature that surrounds us and the beautiful life that we live, and my husband and my family, and all of you who accept people that are unique.
My name is Marianne Lombard, and when I came 20 years ago to the United States from Brazil, I was very sad to leave my good old friends there. But then Yukov gave me the good chance to find new friends, which I can call now my good old friends. Thank you.
I'm Mo Morrison, and I brought an ornament that my daughter Michaela gave me for my first Christmas here in 2019. It's a local artist painted the state of Florida with a heart where Venice lies on the map. Intended to symbolize my new life here, following the death of my husband, her father. So I remember last week Linda saying, try to be brief. And I thought, well, that's hard to do. There's so much to be grateful for. So I wrote a haiku, 17 syllables, and I'm out of here. Small wonders each day. Out of loss and grief, hope, joy, gratitude abounds.
I'm Trudy Jacoby, and I brought a little Swedish ornament made out of straw,
And I am especially grateful for all my good memories that I share with my two sisters about wonderful Christmas time in Sweden.
We're going to do this the next couple of Sundays in December, so you have plenty of time. Think about it for next week.
Avery, your member. And this is Betty Ware, wonderful cake, but I know those two girls up there that served it baked it. And it was lovely. I also want to say that I recognize that I walk around here very slowly, and I'm a big nuisance with this machine. I have to say that I am no longer snap, crackle, and pop. And you have been, all of you, beautifully patient and kind with that. And I thank you very much. Oh.
Other celebrations? Did I see a hand? Yes.
I'm Bev and Joel's granddaughter, and this is my last visit of the semester. I go to Ave Maria University, and I'm from Silver Spring, Maryland, so it has been so nice to have family here and to get to spend quality time with my grandma. I've lived so far away from her for so long, and to see her and my grandpa almost every month has been so special and so needed, and I love them very much, and I won't celebrate that.
Khleber, you're wearing a robe with a resplendent rainbow around your neck. So I'm celebrating this change. I hope you all.
Thank you. All right. Brought any sorrows with you to church this morning? I'll bring the mic. No. I'm aware that Hal Schaefer, we talked about last week, had been in the hospital for quite a while, and Hal went home, I believe yesterday, to enter hospice, home hospice at this time. So our thoughts and prayers are with Donna and Hal and their entire family. May the gratitude and celebrations among us this day become a blessing to us all, and may the concerns and sorrows of each be carried in all our hearts, a burden shared become a load lightened. And now I invite you into a spirit of prayer and meditation as we share some words from my late colleague, the UU minister, Reverend Jack Mendelson. Here in this sanctuary of ancient dreams and wisdom and beauty, we come to grow and to be healed, to stretch our minds and our hearts, to be challenged, to be renewed. We come to be helped in our own continuing struggles for meaning and for love, to help build a world with more justice and mercy in it, and to be counted among the hopers and the doers. In the face of the cynicism and the darkness and the brutality around us and within, we seek to align ourselves with a living community that would affirm rather than despair, that would think and act rather than simply adjust and succumb. Here we invite the spirit of our own humanity and all the healing powers under, around, through, and beyond it to give us the nerve and the grace, the toughness and the sensitivity to search out the truth that frees and the life that maketh all things new. We lift up those in this community who face change, challenge, or loss this day as we hold within our hearts all who suffer. Now we pray, each in our own ways, into the silence. The hopes of this community are offered forth in the names of all those who've gone before and in the names of all those who will come after, in the names of all the helpers of humankind. Shalom, salam, amen, and blessed be. I heard a story about a congregation that had been in search for a minister. It seems this congregation called a brand new, fresh out of seminary minister. And when it came to their first Sunday in the pulpit, the congregation was, of course, very excited. After church, it was obvious the congregation had loved their minister's first sermon, and they couldn't wait for more. Well, the next Sunday, when the minister stepped into the pulpit and began the sermon, few in the congregation glanced back and forth at each other because they recognized that this sounded like the same sermon as the previous week. Was the minister confused, or had he simply picked up the wrong manuscript? Well, there would be next week. And when the next Sunday rolled around, lo and behold, the minister preached the same sermon 3 weeks in a row. Something had to be done. Board members went to the minister and said, did you pick up the wrong manuscript yet again, or is there something else wrong? The minister said, no, there's nothing wrong. But I noticed that you hadn't done what I told you to do after that first Sunday, so I thought I'd better keep preaching the same sermon. Until you did what I told you. I think it's obvious that this is not a story about a Unitarian Universalist congregation. It must be some other denomination where ministers, for whatever reason, expect people to do what they say. It would not be a church like this. One thing this congregation made clear to me when I arrived here 7+ years ago now was that I would be their first settled minister. It seemed important at the time, to those people. And so anytime I would be out and about in the community, I would introduce myself that way. Hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm the settled minister over at the Unitarian Universalist congregation. You might imagine, lots of people out there ask me, what are you talking about? And so I got used to saying that this congregation had had 3 ministers prior to my arrival, but that I was the first to be considered settled, meaning that I had been called by the congregation to be part of the leadership of the congregation for the foreseeable future. Called by the congregation to be part of the leadership for the foreseeable future. Because I continue to hear comments among ourselves that seem maybe to be a little confused about the meaning of settled versus other types of ministries, I wanted to try to clarify some of that today, if I could. So first of all, to start with that word, call. I was called here by this congregation, meaning this congregation went through an extensive search process, just like you're about to embark on again, in which you collectively take the time to have broad and deep communal conversations about who you are as a congregation, what the mission of this congregation is, not the mission statement, but the mission. What do you see as this congregation's role in the larger community? What strengths do you have as a congregation? What challenges do you face now? What challenges have been long-term, deep-seated issues for you over all the years? Now, I don't know what that sounds like to you, but those are not quick and easy conversations. They're just not. You need months to do those things. You need time to reflect and to get to what you actually feel and think deep down. You need time to listen and to hear each other deeply. And most especially, you need time to understand that on the one hand, this is all about you. And on the other hand, it isn't about you at all. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But at the end of this process, I expect you'll go through. Then, like what happened last time, and like what I hope will happen for you this time, you will have, at the end of that process, found a person you want to call to come be your settled minister. And you'll extend a call to them. How's a call different from a hire? Hiring someone is what you do for a shorter term position, such as a person to preach from this pulpit for a month or for a Sunday or two. A call, though, is longer term, often for an unspecified amount of time, out into the foreseeable future, as I said. When you extend the call to a minister, you offer to enter into a covenant with them, an agreement that calls for them to come take on the role of settled minister as outlined in your bylaws, your policies and procedures manual, and in the letter of agreement you will sign with that minister. For a settled minister, the covenant means that the minister-congregation relationship isn't, we hired you and you will do what I say. Rather, it is, we called you to engage in the ministries of this congregation alongside us, to bring your education and training, your experience and expertise, to bring really your whole self to this work that the congregation is here to do. 1, for you individually, 2, for the congregation as a whole, and 3, for the broader community and the whole world. There's a difference to being called to be the settled minister of a congregation and hired to be a say, a contract minister. Hiring, as you may have heard recently, is done by a very small group from a congregation when the congregation hasn't yet entered into that deep discernment process I described a minute ago in the search for a settled minister. And there's a reason for that. A contract minister is most often hired to do a prescribed amount of work for a limited amount of time. As I understand it, the clergy people you will have filling the pulpit some of the time during the next 6 months will all be considered contract ministers, hired or contracted to be in the pulpit and to provide some pastoral care, but not, I don't think, to get involved in administrative duties, not to be the chief of staff, not to be the spokespersons for the congregation out in the community. They're hired instead of called because their time with you is limited, as is their role in the life of the church. It doesn't mean they're lesser people. It doesn't mean they're not your minister. It simply means there are crucial differences that you need to pay attention to between the role of contract ministers and settled ministers. I don't know if that's clear, but I'm very willing to talk with you more individually if need be. There's one more type of minister that you are likely to see in this congregation over the next 2.5 years, as I understand it. That would be an interim minister. The word interim is a Latin adverb meaning meanwhile. It means a time between. In seminary and in anthropology, this interim time between other things is said to be liminal space. Has the quality of ambiguity. It's likely to cause the type of disorientation that occurs when you step from one defined area toward what you hope will be another defined area. In that liminal space in between, it can feel like the floor is moving. It can feel like you're in danger of the ground opening up beneath your feet. It can feel like, in fact, all the things you've ever thought would be there for you are now being called into question. Ugh. You could think, oh, that sounds awful. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. The thing is, though, that liminal space in between is where learning occurs. Learning and reorientation. It's a space where just when you thought you knew it all, you start to find out many more things than you ever knew you needed to know. Isn't that scary? I think it is. Now, you remember in episode 4 of Star Wars when Luke Skywalker said to Yoda, "I'm not afraid." The Jedi Master's brow furrowed, and he responded, "You will be. You will be." Now, I don't mean to be mythical or mystical or overly dramatic, but I do mean to impress upon you that if you haven't been through an interim period, especially an interim period in the life of a congregation, it can seem like, why bother? This takes too long. We already know everything we need to know. Nobody knows everything they need to know, in my experience. Another thing, because the interim period between other types of ministries is so important in the life of a congregation, interim ministers do in fact require more training and education than other plain old garden variety settled ministers such as myself. If I were going to do an interim minister myself, which I have no plans to do, thank you. Since I'm not a trained interim minister, I would first read everything I could find, and then I would take the months-long training for interim ministers that's offered by the UUA and other organizations. And maybe you'll have an interim who, if they happen not to be a fully accredited interim minister, they'll be smart enough to want to engage in such training. The interim minister is here to help guide you through the search process, for one thing. Will help mentor you in better governance practices. Most especially, they'll help you grieve the losses that are at the heart of what we're all feeling right now. My experience is that the interim period in the life of a congregation is pivotal to setting them on the right track for success with a new settled ministry. The statistics are out there about the number of unintentional interims that happen because, congregations think they're smarter than the average bear, and they think they can somehow get away without doing the work that's required for success. They try to skip over hiring an interim minister and move straight into calling a settled minister, and then that settled minister lasts a year, maybe two, becoming an unintentional interim, essentially a failed ministry, and impacting the life of a congregation for years. So you may as well go through an interim period the way the statistics tell you to, because you're going to go through one anyway. I think you'd rather get it right than wrong. So that's the three different sorts of ministers you're likely to meet up with in the next 2.5 years. Contract ministers, an interim minister, and a new settled minister. Yeah, they all contain the word minister in their title. They do. But you'll find that you'll have very different kinds of relationships with them, for better and worse, and they with you. I hope that's clear about those three different periods coming up in your near future. If not, don't hesitate to ask me or somebody else. One last image I wanted to float out there and leave with you today. It was about 8 years ago, probably this month, that I read the congregational record document that your previous search committee had posted on the Unitarian Universalist Association's ministerial search website. It was long. It's probably 20 pages of stuff. You'll be doing that again, I bet. One of the questions and answers has remained on my mind all these years. I think it may have been Bonnie Norton who composed this answer, but you could check with Joel or Denny to see if that's correct. The question was this: does this congregation have a mission, not a mission statement, but a glowing coal at its center? Does this congregation have a glowing coal at its center? And if so, what is it? The answer from Bonnie, I believe it was something like this. At the present time, identifying a glowing coal at our center is perhaps one of our core challenges. Having rapidly achieved our early visions, we've struggled in recent years to identify our next steps. We hope a settled minister will help identify our glowing coal. But we know this important transition, she continued, into a settled ministry, following 5 years of contract or interim ministry, will certainly drive changes as we come to understand the impact of such a long-term relationship with a minister rather than the annual contract process we've grown very used to. So, apparently Bonnie wanted help from a settled minister answering this. What is the glowing coal at the center of this congregation? That thought, that question, that image of a glowing coal has remained with me. I admit it has often been troubling. I have been unsettled about it. Unsettled when I hear more than one or two people say, "Oh, I really only come here to see my friends." Because then the image of that glowing coal is reduced to the words social club. A social club where your highest aspiration is to get to hang around with people you already know, who you already think of as like-minded and won't be overly challenging. If this were indeed a social club, I would advise you to repaint the signs out front and change your letterhead to remove the words Unitarian Universalist, because saying you are a Unitarian Universalist congregation implies so much more than come on in, we're the social club that'll be the happy place for you. I have not wanted to bring my concerns about that to you because, like a member of this congregation told me about themselves just this week, I have not wanted to complain about stuff if I couldn't offer a possible solution. I am not knocking the social aspects of our gatherings, especially after the disruption and pain of the pandemic. We are all hungry for human connection and interaction. So if this is a place where we can get those needs met, let's do. But I could not in good conscience say to you, "Oh, it's okay if you aspire to be a social club." Only a social club. It may be okay for you, it's not okay for me. I need to be honest about that. And I have finally found a suggestion for you to consider about what to imagine about that metaphor of the glowing coal that may be at your center. Now imagine a social club with people mingling all about. They're only really looking at their friends. They may never notice that just beyond themselves sits this glowing coal right out there in the center of everything, if they could only take the time to notice. Today, I'm noticing that glowing coal, and I will think of it as the potential of this congregation. The glowing coal is the potential of this congregation. Over the years, many people have had a sense of that glowing coal, and they've worked towards making this potential into a reality. Long before they possibly could have known what it would mean, they purchased this property that is now between, a gated community over there and a manufactured housing community over there. It's now in the center, the very center of an explosion of new housing and new roads that will mean over the next few years, new younger retirees and maybe even new young families, some of them needing the comfort and challenge of a Unitarian Universalist congregation, one that takes seriously the call to become a beacon and a refuge for all who need to hear a message of hope in the midst of an often depressing and demoralizing world. This vision of turning that potential into reality, it includes you but it's not limited to you. On the one hand, it is all about you. It's giving you a place to bring your celebrations and your sorrows. It's providing programming that invites your personal growth. It offers you a place to express your gratitude and to give back as you are able. And yes, a place to see and be with your friends. On the other hand, it is not about you at all. It's about the neighbors that live over there, and the neighbors that live over there, and the neighbors that live all around who don't know yet that such a place as this is possible, in fact, already here for them because of the work you and all the others who've come before have done to prepare this place as a beacon and a refuge. I have an ornament for the gratitude tree. I bring that because I am grateful for all those who've come here before and for all of those who will come here after to nurture this glowing coal of potential that will eventually, it already does, mean so much to so many, but it will eventually mean even more to even more folks. It's hard for me to talk about our next hymn. It is one of my very favorites. It's number one in the gray hymnal. It's called now, May Nothing Evil Cross This Door. It was in the previous blue hymnal as Prayer for This House. If it keeps changing names, that's fine. It's still a lovely hymn, I think. I'd invite you to rise up as you're willing and able, and we'll sing number one. Benediction comes from Robert Mabry Doss. For those who see God, may God go with you. For all who embrace life, may life return your affection. For all who seek a right path, May a way be found and the courage to take it, step by step. Go in peace, walk softly on your paths, and may the light of love shine on you all your days.